A Coventry firm and the University of Warwick have invented a system which could turn every lamppost in the country to a charger for an electric car. The new units are bolted onto the lampposts or onto bollards nearby, and they take the electricity from the lamppost via a small trench.
Well, it means that roads won't have to be dug up to install the charging points needed for the electric car revolution. Our business correspondent is in Coventry for us tonight. Mark, tell us more.
Yeah, well, we all know that the electric car revolution is well and truly underway, but if you've got one and you haven't got a driveway, how do you charge your car? You know, if you've got to park on the street, how do you charge your car? Well, this Coventry company and the University of Warwick, as you say, has come up with this plan. They basically bolt a socket onto an existing lamppost and they take the electricity from there, or they have these standalone bollards and dig a little trench and wire it into the electrics. As you say, it means they don't have to dig up the roads and lay a whole new electric system to charge cars. An electric car charging point every few paces or at every lamppost. Not quite a reality just yet, but in Coventry there's almost 100 already, with another 70 coming next year. This firm, which makes parts for Aston Martin, diversified as the car industry slowed and developed charging sockets with the Warwick Manufacturing Group at the University of Warwick and software company Charge. The sockets can be bolted onto lampposts and wired up to the electric supply. Others are standalone bollards which take the electricity from lampposts nearby via a small trench.
The main advantage of the Charge installations are the fact that pavements don't need to be dug up. And you don't need to have new cables running down roads from power stations, because the electricity power which is already in the lampposts, which is providing the lighting for the street, is used to actually charge the product itself.
If, as the government wants, more and more people buy electric cars, not only must there be enough charging points, there has to be enough electricity. And new technology is coming, which means the national grid won't be sucked dry in peak times. It works like this. When an electric car is plugged into a charger in peak times when the demand is high, any residual electricity left in the car goes back into the grid. Then, when demand falls and the electricity is off-peak, the grid puts the electricity back into the car. Professor David Bailey is an expert on the car industry and drives an electric car.
When I plug in, I try and avoid peak hours. I've got a smart charger at home, so I'll plug my car in off-peak, so I'm not putting extra pressure on the grid. Ideally, what I'd like to be able to do is for my car to feed the grid in peak times. One of the big new technologies that's coming is called vehicle-to-grid, whereby the car that I plug in can power the grid in peak times, and then I can charge it off-peak, and that will smoothen demand.
A demand which is increasing. Yeah, increasing it is indeed. I spoke to Ofgem, the electricity watchdog. They say there are about 170,000 electric cars in the country at the moment, but by 2040 there'll be 36 million. They say there will be enough electricity as long as we do the things like the smart charging that Professor Bailey spoke about. But electricity isn't the only way of powering cars to replace petrol and diesels. There's also hydrogen. Nithya Rajan takes a look at the pros and cons of hydrogen.
When it comes to cars, the question of how to make these vehicles more green but affordable is still a relevant one. Science has answered the environmental aspect with hydrogen cars, which only generate heat and water. But John Hans, who sells cars in Redditch, is cautiously optimistic about the new technology.
I guess the factors involved in hydrogen in terms of cost equations, and also there's a little bit of reluctance around safety today. Once those are ironed out, like everything that's new, then definitely it'll be a very viable option.
This marked police vehicle is a hydrogen car. It's the latest addition to the fleet belonging to the Metropolitan Police Force.
On the outside, these cars look exactly like petrol cars. You've got a standard fuel tank here, but instead of petrol or diesel, you're putting in hydrogen.
Once hydrogen is pumped, it goes into a fuel cell where it's combined with oxygen. This chemical reaction only produces water and electricity, a marked difference from the harmful emissions we get from petrol or diesel cars.
Hydrogen is the golden egg as far as I'm concerned. That is the way forward. It is zero emissions, like I said, but the only problem we've got is the actual refilling stations we've only got 4 of.
It doesn't sound super practical if you've only got refuelling. I mean, what happens if you're on the go and you run out and someone gets away? I mean, that's obviously
So that's why we've deployed them strategically to make sure that we're able to fulfil its demand.
But despite the lack of infrastructure, some say hydrogen cars have one big advantage over electric cars.
Battery electric vehicles are very efficient for short range, but as you want design for longer and longer range, you need more batteries, and they're very heavy. So the efficiency of a battery vehicle very quickly falls off a cliff. Whereas a hydrogen vehicle, I mean, our vehicle's got a range of 300 miles, and it only carries 1.5 kilos of hydrogen.
The road to hydrogen cars becoming the norm, however, is a long one.
Hydrogen technology is a lot more expensive than electric technology at the moment. What we use in electric cars, lithium ion, is used in a lot of different applications, for example mobile phones, where the hydrogen fuel cell technology isn't used in lots of applications, so therefore at the moment the price is higher.
And until the cost of this shiny technology comes down, progress will only be available to those who can afford it. Navya Rajan, ITV News.